Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever-so-slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, February 2nd, 2025, and this is show number 1030. Man, this is starting to get to be a broken record, but we have a mammoth show for you. Bart and I had way too much fun in security bits, or too much discussion, I should say. So the back end of the show is pretty heavily weighted. We've got a bunch of fun interviews, and I will be doing one single recording of my own. In Programming by Stealth this week, Bart has started a new mini-series you might be interested in. He's going to teach us how to use GitHub Pages to create a website for free. In Programming by Stealth 175, he starts by explaining what static site generators are, like GitHub Pages, and the pros and cons versus a more traditional content management system like WordPress. Neither are wrong, they just solve the same problem in different ways, and there are pros and cons of both depending on the kind of problem you're trying to solve. He then gives us the framework for the tools we'll be using and lays out the next few lessons where we'll get in and get our hands dirty. I am extremely excited about this mini-series, and I hope you will be too. You can, of course, find Bart's fabulous tutorial show notes and the podcast at pbs.bartificer.net. Well, one of our first interviews for CES was a robotic comfort dog, and it had a lot of value and people were very interested in this product. We're going to bring you another robotic dog interview, but this one is just for fun. We've got a tiny little robot dog down here on the ground, and I'm here with Tiger Kang to tell us all about it.
Yeah, hello. This is our robotic dogs, our self-made things, and we put our all characters on it, so it could be your home robot pet, or for entertainment or something else. Yeah.
So, the dog's rolling its head around.
Yeah.
It's running. Oh wow, that's really articulated.
Yeah, very flexible to move motion. Yeah, and we put lots of works on it, and we have preset some motion groups like this.
Can we go down here?
Yeah, of course. With hands and just like this, or sit down and see.
The dog just sat.
Yeah.
By the way, this is audio only too, so I'm going to narrate a little bit more. Oh, dog can walk. This dog moves in every direction, really flexible directions.
All kinds of directions like this one. Yeah, it can be front or backward, left side or right side. It's supposed it's okay, and the motion will be rather flexible to move. Yeah.
Wow, that is a lot of actuators.
Yeah, that's true.
Does it have a camera on it?
We didn't put a lot of camera system on it, and
on the front it's glass.
yeah, it's just the animation like that. We are pretending it have one, but
okay.
we will put the cameras in the future. But right now it didn't practice right on this prototype. Yeah.
So this is just for fun, right? We're just having a good time.
Mainly it's for the entertainment, but we could also offer it to the developers, so they can use it as a platform to put their AI modules or some softwares on it, and to make it their own robot. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and are you going to be, will this be out to the general market?
Yeah, of course. We will coming soon at March or April this year. Yeah.
Do you have any idea of a price point for it?
It's about several hundred, I think. 5 to 6. We are not decided yet. Yeah.
5 to 600?
Yeah, $100.
That's not that bad. All right, thank you very much, Tiger.
Yeah, don't worry. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the.
Where would people go to see this?
It will go on the Kickstarter for the first one, and we will go to the Amazon or some e-trading platform after that. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll keep our eyes out for Davey Robot.
You can follow. You can continue to follow with us. Yeah. Thank you.
I think Steve put it best when he just said that he's never seen anything like this before. We're looking at a 3D display of 2D images, and I'm here with Kira Fong of Light Matrix to tell us about it. What are we looking at here?
You're looking at a naked eye 3D television, and all the 3D pictures you see right now, the original picture is just 2D. Through our algorithm, we can change your 2D pictures to 3D at about just 15 seconds.
So we're looking at different pictures, like Machu Picchu just went by, some beautiful cherry blossoms, there have been puppies and kittens, and it's real interesting. If you're dead center, the effect is extremely good. As soon as you get a little bit off axis, it gets, the double images get mixed up. So you do have to be dead center to get the best effect, I think, right?
Pardon?
You have to be right in the very center to get the best effect,
Yes,
right?
because it's just 120 degrees.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Okay.
angle.
And you said the distance it's best viewed at?
It's 50 to 100 centimeters is the best.
That is really cool. So this is from Light Matrix. Is this product available yet?
It's available right now.
It is. Where do you get them?
Like some entertainment, for some entertainments and for some advertisements. It's a whole new advertisement equipment. But this television, you can also watch 2D videos, 3D videos, 2D photos, 3D photos, any kind you want.
Oh, that's right. In this challenging Wi-Fi environment, you're not pulling out the 3D videos, but
Yes, because it takes too long time to change the 3D video.
so the 3D videos are actually 2D videos that have been created as 3D.
Yes, but it takes more long time than pictures.
Wow. So does the user create these 3D videos, these 3D photos, the owner?
No, the users just upload your 2D videos or 2D photos. Then through our algorithm, I can make your videos and photos into 3D and
I
this
see.
television. Yes.
I see. Very good. So like you said, it's really good for advertising.
Advertising, yes.
You probably wouldn't sit at home and watch this.
Yes, might not maybe, yeah, because I saw it at my company every day. Different videos, different pictures in 3D. So
Good.
yeah.
I'm curious. I'm asking Steve on camera. Can you tell the effects through the video?
It's too hard to tell with a small monitor.
Oh, but it might be visible. It'd be real curious. I wonder how that works. Well, this is really interesting. Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you very much.
Oh, is there a price point on this? What do they cost?
About 3,000 USD dollars.
Okay, and that's what, about a 45 inch?
This is 43 inch.
43.
Yeah, I do not have 45, but I have 86.
Oh.
Sorry, 78. 78. Yeah, I'm
Very
doing
good.
the 78 version right now.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You would think that reviewing a battery pack would be a simple exercise. In fact, on any normal tech podcast, it would go something like this. Hey, I got this nifty Qi 2 battery pack. It's thin and light and has a capacity of 5,000 milliamp hours, and it's only $20. But you know, that's not how this review is going to go, is it? First, let's take a quick stroll down memory lane. When Apple came out with the first MagSafe battery pack for iPhone, it seemed like a dream come true. But when you got into the details, the product was kind of odd. The battery only had a 1460 milliamp hour battery capacity, and to charge it, you had to buy separately a 20-watt power adapter and the lightning cable. Now, 20 watts today is common, but back then it was something most people didn't just have lying around. It would charge your phone at a feeble 7.5 watts. But get this, it could charge at 15 watts, but only if it was plugged into that 20-watt power supply while charging your phone. That kind of defeats the purpose of a portable battery pack if you have to plug it in. It weighed 4 ounces and it was 0.43 inches thick, 2.5 by 3.75 inches, which is pretty standard for these kinds of battery packs. Well, at least it was expensive at $99. It was a great idea and we all wanted one at first, but the limitations were far too great for most people to push the buy button. Apple eventually dropped the product. With the introduction of the Qi 2 standard, as you'll remember, Apple's 15-watt charging standard with the magnets in it and everything, that's now called Qi 2, we can now have battery packs for our phones that deliver 15 watts of wireless power and sport a USB-C charging port. At one of the CES press events, we interviewed a representative of the MakeBlock company who sells a line of laser cutters for home use under the brand XCOOL. The interview was especially fun because friend of the show, friend of ours, and podcaster Richard Gunther of the Digital Media Zone happened to walk up right then and joined us. Turns out he has one of these XCOOL laser cutters, and so I asked him to join in on the interview. Sadly, you will not get to hear that interview just yet, but I promise there's a reason all of this is relevant to talking about Qi 2 battery packs. The folks that make the XCOOL laser cutter gave Richard and me and Steve a Qi 2 XCOOL battery pack. Get it? XCOOL sounds like X-Tool. Anyway, that's actually what I'm going to review today is the XCOOL battery pack. The XCOOL Qi 2 battery pack has a capacity of 5,000 milliamp hours, quite a bit more than the anemic 1460 milliamp hours of the Apple MagSafe battery pack. Apple's offering was a chubby 0.43 inches thick, while the XCOOL is only 0.31 inches thick. That doesn't seem like much of a difference, but you notice 27% thinner. It's only a smidge lighter, though, at 4.5 ounces. In the hand, it's sleek and it feels great. It's a little bit sharp on the corners. The Apple charger had these lovely rounded edges, and the XCOOL is a little bit sharper. So you might like it better. You might like the rounded feel better. Since it's G2, it delivers power to your phone at the full 15-watt fast charging standard, as I described, without needing to be plugged into power. If you do plug it in, it can deliver 20 watts of charge. It has 4 white indicator lights to show you the charge level. In the box, they include 2 optional accessories for your XCOOL battery pack. If you have a non-MagSafe case on your phone, or you're using an Android phone, they include a magnetic ring so you can stick it to your phone case. They also include a USB-C charging cable for the battery, but no power adapter, which is kind of becoming the norm. The other accessory is quite clever. It's a very small strip of metal that you stick a half an inch away from the bottom of the battery. A portion of the metal strip is hinged in the middle to fold out to form a kickstand. It sounds janky as I describe it, but it works surprisingly well. It'll hold your phone up in both landscape and portrait orientations of the phone. I like that the little sticker of metal is super thin, so it really adds no noticeable bulk to the battery. The XCOOL 5000 mAh battery pack lists for only $40 on Amazon, but as of the time of this writing, it's only $30. And as of the time of this writing, there's a $10 coupon, so it's only $20. Comes in gray, green, black, white, red, silver, and purple for me and Sandy. Sadly, they gave it to me in gray. If 5,000 mAh isn't enough for you, XCOOL also comes in a 10,000 mAh format, but that'll bulk it up to 0.59 inches thick and 6.9 ounces. It's listed for $50 on Amazon, but there's a $20 coupon bringing it down to $30 right now. Any normal tech podcaster or reviewer would stop here, or maybe not even have gone this far. But when I told a few people about this battery pack, they told me they had a 5,000 mAh battery pack from Anker. I know that Anker is a well-loved brand, so I looked up the 5,000 mAh Anker 621 magnetic portable charger. It lists for $40 on Amazon, but it's currently discounted to $28. That's basically in the same range as the XCOOL. However, Anker's 5,000 mAh battery is even chubbier than Apple's old battery, coming in at 0.45 inches versus 0.31 for the XCOOL. Anker's battery is also a bit heavier at 5 ounces versus 4.5 for the XCOOL. The Anker 621 Mag Go comes in the requisite purple, but also black, light blue, light green, and white. If it were for the thickness, I'd probably lean towards recommending Anker over XCOOL because the brand is really well known and it's only a smidge more expensive. Before I could give the XCOOL the Podfeet stamp of approval, I decided to actually charge my phone with the XCOOL battery. What I discovered surprised and dismayed me. The iPhone 16 Pro has a rated capacity of 3582 milliamp hours, and my battery health is still at 100%. I slapped the XCOOL on the back of the phone without a case to let it charge. I expected the 5,000 milliamp hour battery to easily fill the iPhone's 3582 milliamp hour battery from its starting point of 14%. But the XCOOL was out of juice when the battery was only at 84%. That means the phone only gained 70% of its capacity. 70% of 3582 is only around 2,500 milliamp hours. That means I only got about half the capacity of the XCOOL battery. The XCOOL, in spite of its name, did get a bit hot to the touch when charging the phone. I checked it with my handy-dandy laser thermometer, and it was a toasty 106.1 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a crazy hot, but any signs of heat means loss. You may notice that your phone always heats up when on a MagSafe charger, but it doesn't when it's plugged in via USB-C or Lightning, and that's why MagSafe is so much less efficient. Now remember that using MagSafe, or Qi2 to speak more generically, is using what's called inductive charging. The phone and the charger both have a coil of wire in them. When electricity flows through that wire on the charger, it induces a magnetic field, hence inductive charging. When the coil in the phone senses the magnetic field induced by the charger's coil, it causes the reverse effect on the phone side. Electricity flows through the coil in the phone, charging its battery. This process of inducing a magnetic field and converting it to an electrical current is inherently lossy. What I didn't appreciate was how lossy it might be. I didn't think it would be a loss of 50%, as I found in my test of the XCOOL battery. Well, it was time for more experiments. I asked Richard Gunther if he would be able to run the identical experiment for me. He ran his battery down pretty low, took the case off, that's so we don't add more loss by a bigger air gap. He sent me the details of his phone, including the model, an iPhone 15 Pro, so I could look up the capacity, and, maybe equally important, he told me his battery health. His effective charge of his phone from the XCOOL 5,000 milliamp hour battery pack was also right around 2,500 milliamp hours, or 50%. His battery also died before he got to the full charge of his phone. Now, my buddy Ron saw my XCOOL a few days earlier, and he bought one for himself, so I enlisted him in the experiment group. His results were better than mine and Richard's. While he required about the same amount of charge on his iPhone as me and Richard, the battery still had one of its 4 lights on when the phone was at 100% charged. We did some math to prorate the effective charge he could expect from his battery, and it came out at almost 2,900 milliamp hours. That's still only 58% of its rating. Finally, I asked Sandy Foster to test her Anker 621 Mag Go, which you'll remember is also a 5,000 milliamp hours. Again, with no case, she was able to get to 100% with one light still on the Anker. If we prorate her results like we did Ron's, that means the effective charge capacity of the Anker was 3387, or around 67% of the promised 5,000 milliamp hours. That's a lot better than any of our tests with the XCOOL. However, anyone paying attention to all these numbers I'm throwing out will realize there's an obvious flaw in my math. That's assuming that one light of 4 being lit up is exactly 25% capacity left. What if it really means it's somewhere between 25 and 0? The stats I collected really mean that the available charge is no more than 3387 for the Anker and no more than 2,900 milliamp hours for Ron's XCOOL. Now, I know at this point I'm the only one still interested in the topic, but I ran the test on my XCOOL again and also remembered that Steve had gotten an XCOOL, so I tested it on my phone. The results were pretty much in line with the others, showing 2687 milliamp hours for my second test and 2328 milliamp hours for Steve's XCOOL. I put all of these results in an accessible markdown table in the show notes if you want to see all of the data I collected. The bottom line is that whatever Qi 2 magnetic battery pack you choose, don't expect that the milliamp hour rating is what you'll actually get. It seems that something on the order of 50 to 70% of the rating is the best you can hope for. Steve says I should apologize, too, for fat-shaming the Apple battery by calling it chubby. I'm sorry. I still like how slim the XCOOL battery is, and it'll definitely go in my backpack for conferences and whenever I'm near my grandchildren. Nothing burns a phone battery down faster than taking photos of grandchildren. One of the maybe silliest looking or cutest looking chargers that I have is from a company called Sharge, and my friend Pat Dangler gave it to me. She gave me 2 of them, and I was so enchanted with these that I got one for Steve. I'm here with Ryan Wu from Sharge, and one of them is just a little 35-watt charger, and it's got a little happy Mac-looking face on the front. Looks like a little tiny Mac. But the one I'm really enchanted with is a tiny GAN charger. It's max 67 watts, but it's got 3 USB chargers and ports, and it gives you a display that tells you all about the watts that are going in. Yeah, and it kind of looks like the Matrix. Yes. So now that I've told them why I raced up to this booth and was so excited to talk to Sharge, now I'm going to let Ryan Wu talk about what he wants to tell us about today.
Okay, so this year we're launching a new sub-brand called Lumos. So Sharge is still focusing on power supply and storage products, but Lumos will focus on AI devices. So the very first one will be this, the Lumos AI glasses. So it's a pair of AI glasses that support 16 megapixel camera for 4K photos and 1080p video shootings. And also we have an industry first AAC 9920 speakers for calls and music. So you are able to enjoy music and take calls with these glasses. And also we support ChatGPT 4.0, so it's basically like an AI assistant to you. Yeah.
We're not going to have to know anything.
Okay. Really?
So do you have a price point on these yet?
Right now we're aiming at $200 US.
Oh, that's not bad at all. So that's Lumos, L-O-O-M-O-S, AI glasses?
Yeah, AI
and you're wearing them right now.
Yeah,
they look nice.
Right, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so mine is with prescription glasses. Yeah.
That's going to be important for people like me. Can I try these on?
Yes.
All right. How do I look in the Lumos glasses, Steve?
Very cool. Right? Very cool, yeah.
All right. So I am also very interested in all of the charging stuff. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
Can we talk about the charging stuff down here as well?
Which one do you want to...
Well, I don't know what you have. Oh, I got to put my glasses back on or I can't see what you're doing.
Okay, so this is actually one of our latest wireless power bank. It's called the iSmack 2. It's actually the next generation of the very first generation one, which is also very popular. So it actually supports Qi 2 wireless charging to 15 watt. And if you charge your devices with a cable, it will support 30 watt output. Capacity-wise, it's 10,000 milliamp per hour. And this time we upgrade with a kickstand right here. Yeah, so if you want to binge watch videos, you can just snap on your iPhone and then put on the table. Yeah.
Okay, so it's got the Qi charger on the front, and what I love about Sharge is they've got something just fun about it. For no apparent reason, there's a plastic cover on the back that lets us see inside. Looks like is that a little fan?
Yeah, we're actually the world's first one to put active cooling fan in the power bank. So if you snap the power bank on your phone like this, it will show the RGB. Yeah.
Okay, so it just went red, green, blue. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
so we can
it's a
see the
rotating RGB. Yeah, you can also check out the battery levels on the power bank.
There's something playful and creative about this company.
Yes. Yeah, we're very, acute in consumers' needs, so we try to make our products fun and interesting for users. Yeah.
All right. So, what's your price on this?
This one right now is $69 US. Yeah.
And what is it called?
It's called iSmack 2.
Ice Pack 2.
iSmack. Magnetic, the Mac. Yeah, M-A-G. I-C-M-A-G. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So ice because it's got the active cooling.
Yes.
And magnetic because it's got...
magnetic for wireless charging, yes.
All right. It looks like you've got some big power banks down here as well.
Yes.
Should I just grab one of these at random?
Okay, cool. Yeah, no problem.
All right.
So this is actually the very first generation of our large power banks called the Sharge 100. So we're actually the world's first one to put a all full color screen inside the power bank that allows users to keep track of the power status of the power bank. And capacity wise it's 25,600 milliamp per hour.
So
but
what he's got
airline safe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what he's got in his hands is about maybe an inch and a half and 2 inches high.
Yeah.
And sorry?
Yeah, we have two USB-C ports over here, a USB-A, and also we have a adjustable DC ports for the DIY lovers. If you want to charge with your, iron, yeah, you can use the DC port with it. Yeah.
Okay. And again, it's open out to the inside so we can see some capacitors around here. We can see right into the circuit board. That's just fun.
Yeah, so transparent design is actually our signature. Yeah.
So that's not a demo model. That's actually how you sell it.
It's not a demo. We actually sell this for like 2 years already. Yeah.
The production model has a clear plastic.
Yes.
So is there something down here that we should be looking at that's the newer one? I just grabbed one at random here.
This one is actually not released yet. It's called the Sharge 300. Yeah, the reason why we call it 300 is because the maximum output from this power bank is up to 300 watt.
What?
Yes. So we have the same configuration as that one, but it supports dual 140 watt output from one single USB port.
Who needs that?
Yeah, everyone needs that. Yeah, as long as you have a laptop or a MacBook, you will need 140 watt output. Yeah.
All right, and then there's buttons on the bottom that say SA. What do those say? I can't quite read that.
Okay, so we actually have a buttons for the UI because we have a fully upgraded screen from the first generation. Yes.
So if you're watching the video, now we've got a much brighter, bigger display that's really readable. The other one has the information, the older one, but this new one, it says total in so many watts, battery 14%, total out, recharge 9 hours 54 minutes. So you could really, you don't have to interpret the numbers.
No, we don't. 我们在采访. Yes. It's actually not shown yet because we also integrated RGBs here.
He's flipping through screens now. He's got all kinds of different screens he can play with. There's a whole menu system.
Yes, so you can adjust, the voltage of the DC ports you want to charge, and also you can adjust all the other language or the brightness of the screen display itself. Yeah, to make it more like playful, more playful.
Wow. Yeah. So this is a 300 watt. How big is the charger? 20,000 again? 20,000 milliamp hours?
24,000 milliamp per hour.
Okay. What is this one called?
We call it Sharge 300.
And is that available, or when is it coming out?
It's not available at the moment. We're aiming to launch this quarter. Yeah, hopefully February or March. Yeah.
All right, very good. So where would people go to find out all of these products?
At Sharge.com and also at Amazon. You can just type in SHARGE Sharge. This is our brand name. Yeah.
Very good. Such a delight to meet you. Tell everybody I'm a huge fan. I love these products.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
I'm in the Bird Buddy booth, and I'm talking to Francie Zidar. And I came up to this because I was expecting to talk about a bird feeder, because everybody knows about the Bird Buddy bird feeder that shows you these fun videos and photos of the birds that are coming to your bird feeder. But you're actually going to show us something new that you're working on.
Yes, we're trying to be fair to all life around the home, right? So not just birds. That's why we're launching Petal, which is a nature-inspired camera, solar-powered, goes into anywhere there's nature around your home, right? Takes beautiful images, videos, collects data, gives you insights, basically kind of connects you with all the nature that's around there.
All right, so what he's got in his hand looks like a little flower petal with a leaf and a camera, but the leaf looks to be solar?
Goes down, you can pop it up. So yeah, solar-powered, flower design, you can put it in the ground, you can actually hang it from a tree. This coils up so you can kind of wrap it around a branch. Wherever there's nature, like over there, yeah. Wherever there's nature, Petal goes, yeah.
So what gets the bug to come up to the screen, to the camera?
So there's the other product that we're launching, which is Wonder Blocks. And if you think about this as a device that captures all the beautiful wildlife, right? This is the stage for it. So this is a vertical system, modular. It creates like you can think of it like a planter pot that also includes bug hotels and butterfly feeders and bee hotels. And it's really like an adult Lego for people that care about nature, right?
So what? These are fake plants. You would put real plants into this?
Fake. Not all of them are fake.
Okay, but you talk about like the bee hotel. What makes the bees want to come, or the butterfly hotel to come to that?
So the butterfly hotel has nectar on it, on a sponge, right? And that attracts butterflies. It also attracts hummingbirds, by the way. And then the bee hotel should have, bamboo shoots in it, but it doesn't because we didn't have them right now. But the bamboo shoots actually create like a beautiful habitat for wild bee.
This is so fun. So we've got this camera here.
Yes.
How is that connected to my network?
So that connects to Wi-Fi. And then there's an app where everything kind of comes together, right? And there's a couple of different ways to interact. One is nature can reach out to you and it can send you like beautiful photos and images and highlights of the day, right? You can also engage with that nature and ask it things. So there's AI in the background where it takes all of that input and you can ask it, how many bees have you had today, right? Or do you need anything? And it'll tell you. I mean, yeah, like I've not seen birds a lot, so maybe you plant something else near me, right? So there's kind of a two-way communication between nature and you.
And I believe the other woman we were talking to said that it'll also go parse through the photos it's taken and only send you the good ones?
Oh, yeah. So that's something that we've really intentionally done with Bird Buddy as well, right? There's a lot of action happening in any garden, any time of the day, right? So if we send you any motion, that's going to be pretty overbearing, hit quickly, right? So we try to be selective of the stuff that we send out, yeah.
Okay, and this product in your hand is called Petal.
So that's Petal,
correct?
yeah, Petal.
And then the other product was the Wonder Blocks, which are the planters that you can get. Yeah, the adult Lego, there you go. And where would people go to find out more about this?
So Experience Wonder is the website. We're launching these products on Kickstarter in the spring with a target to launch end of the year or early 2026.
ExperienceWonder.com. And now, how much do you expect Petal to go for?
Sub 99. Yeah, that's the target. Yeah.
Okay, and how about the Wonder Blocks?
That is TBD, yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much. This is good. Looks like a lot of fun. Everybody's talking about Bird Buddy, so I had to stop by.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, hey, do you like the NosillaCast? Do you learn from it? Are you often entertained? If you made it this far, I sure hope so. I'd like you to consider joining all of the lovely folks who went to podfeed.com/Patreon and pledged to support the show. You can be one of the cool kids too. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Security Bits with Bart Busschots to bring us horror and maybe some good news and a palate cleanser to fix it all at the end.
2 palate cleansers.
Ooh.
We need them. So I'm going to do something a little unusual. So I have this feedback and follow-up section I kind of use for all sorts of stuff, but usually it's stuff we talked about last time. I'm going to say, if you followed our advice from 2019, you might want to rethink. So we did an episode about DNS providers, and we listed a bunch of options of really good free DNS servers you could use that were trustworthy and so forth. And one of the ones on that list was Quad 9, which is called that because the IP address is 9.9.9.9. And their special feature is that they're a not-for-profit B Corp in Switzerland, so they don't have a financial scariness or a bad motivation. And they target their DNS to block known malware domains. So basically, use this DNS server and a bunch of malware gets dented, which I like. So I followed my advice of that option and set that up on my router 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, and never thought of it again until about last Wednesday, when my internet got weird. Not broken, just stuttery. So the first time you go to a website, it'd be really, 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 really slow, and you go, that's weird, and you hit refresh and it was instant. And you do a speed test and you have all the usual speeds, but every web page was slow for the first time. Now, I'm a person with a lot of DNS bruises from my professional life. I recognize those symptoms. They're DNS lookup failures. So the first time your computer encounters a name, it looks it up in DNS and it caches it. If your internet is good, but your DNS is bad, then your internet is slow to start and then perfectly normal. And every new website, you get the same feeling of, God, this is so slow. Oh, no, it's normal again. And that's because of your DNS. And so I went to hunting and eventually found that my router was hard-coded to 9.9.9.9. And as soon as I changed it to 1.1.1.1 from Cloudflare, my internet was perfect.
Oh, so, but why?
They seem to be having some sort of server issues, whether it's that their service is running out of resources or something or whatever, but their service was just not reliable from Ireland.
Huh. So the specific symptom, every website is slow to start with, and then subsequent queries to that same website are fine.
Yeah. Because it's only on the DNS lookup. Once your computer has it cached, your computer's good for the next 30 minutes or whatever. And it knows where podfeed.com is and bartb.ie and Google. It knows them all for 30 minutes or whatever the TTL is, time to live. And then as the cache expires, it goes slow again as it waits for the bloody DNS. And then it cops onto itself, caches it again, and you're good again.
So your advice at this point isn't necessarily that Quad 9 is a bad service, is it?
I don't trust it anymore because in hindsight, my internet's been weird on and off for like an hour at a time, and it's been not bad enough for me to bother looking into it.
Oh, okay.
But it's been niggling away at the back of my mind. It's like, geez, something not right here. And I was getting ammunition to go shout at my ISP, but my ISP were completely innocent. Nothing to do with my ISP this time. So I just thought I'd flag to people, if you followed my advice and hard-coded 9.9.9.9, maybe reconsider, because in the 6 years since, Cloudflare's 1.1.1.1 has earned my respect greatly, so I'm quite happy to switch to them.
You know, we kept this article, it was kind of funny. We were just talking in Programming by Stealth about the difference between ways of creating a web page. And we were talking about WordPress and how there are pages and posts. And posts have dates on them and they're sequential and, you know, what you normally see on the show. But it's something that is static and maybe important in some way, like an about page. That's a page, not a post. So Bart went looking for this DNS provider recommendation that he'd made. And he said, I don't understand. It doesn't have a date. It's because it was a page. And we kept it as a page because it was an evergreen topic. Can I ask you to go back and maybe do a strike through on what you wrote before and say updated 2025? Today, I recommend Cloudflare.
Probably. I didn't actually make a recommendation. I just gave a list of options. So I think we need to strike through that option and just put a note to say has become unreliable. So send me a reminder after we record, but yes, not a problem.
Okay, great.
Okay, so with that done, I'm going to get the first of our icky news out of the way. It is a deep dive because, I don't have a really good answer, but it made a lot of media. There are a pair of new flaws in Apple Silicon. So this are speculative execution, which we're used to hearing about in Intel land, but it has arrived here in I think it's M3 and 4 land. So
the world is ending, right? This is we should light our hair on fire?
No. There's no fire extinguisher because this is not nothing, but it's not light your hair on fire. It's somewhere in that vague grey middle. The TLDR, which I always think is important to distill it down to one sentence, for now, the real-world risk appears to be low. And there's nothing you can do even if you wanted. So don't worry, and there's nothing for you to do. Apple are monitoring the situation, and it is possible that something happens, that Apple sees something in the wild, and they issue an emergency patch. So if you see an update from Apple saying something about speculative execution or whatever, patch, because it's likely to be serious.
Can I take a stab at
dig in?
Can I make a stab at explaining what speculative execution is? Because I don't think we've repeated it this time. We've talked about it a lot, but that's where in the firmware of the chips, they basically try to predict what's going to be asked for next and start answering the question early before all of the information's there. And if something gets into that speculative execution, getting ready to fixing to make a plan to execute something, then that can be where the problems are.
It can, and it's either a problem because there's timing changes, and so you get a side channel, so you can infer information, or the rewind is leaky. So sometimes when it's supposed to rewind because its guess was wrong, it doesn't clean up after itself. And it doesn't just infer information, it can completely leak information by leaving it stuck in the CPU in a register or something it didn't clean up. So there's different way speculative execution goes wrong, but it basically guesses the future to speed up, and it gets, inevitably a guess is sometimes wrong. That's the nature of a guess. And there's a mistake in how they implemented that feature, which results in data leaks. So we've had these. I went back and checked. The first of these were Spectre and Meltdown, and I said, maybe 5 years ago. No, 2017. That's how long we've been talking about this.
Wow.
And they're always different because every new CPU design, they try to optimize in a different way, and whatever mistakes they made, they learn from those mistakes and they do things better, but they make new mistakes, so we get to do it all over again. And it's Apple's turn now. So while this has been mostly an Intel thing, a little bit of AMD, Apple have generally not been affected. Well, now they are. And most of these bugs, I tell you, they fall into the if your computer is already full of malware, then, which is why we don't set our hair on fire about them normally, because you have a much bigger problem if your computer is already full of malware. You have malware. So mostly, these are a problem for people who do cloud hosting, because if you're selling CPU cycles to a whole bunch of people, having multiple people's stuff on the same CPU is a feature, not a bug. It's not like malware is sharing with your real stuff. It's like, this is supposed to be sharing. So it can't leak. So they have to patch speculative execution every time. And that usually means massive performance hits. And they basically the whole industry has had to add more CPUs to make up for the fact that these optimizations are leaky. They just have to turn off the optimizations and throw more CPUs at the problem. But we home users have usually gotten away with it. But not always. There have been a few times since 2017 when we have had to install patches which we've generally gotten from two sources, either from the operating system or from our browser vendors, because the problem for us regular folk has been speculative execution that can be triggered with JavaScript, because other people's code is what the web is.
Right.
It's normal operation when you're on a website, you're running JavaScript from some random person. And it should not be able to see outside of its tab, right? There's supposed to be tab isolation. And if speculative execution lets that leak, you have a big problem. And then you get patches from the browser vendors or the operating system vendors. I'm sorry to say, These two flaws, which have been named slap and flop, are in this category. The proof of concept is stealing secret information from a Gmail tab from a different malicious tab. So breaking tab isolation.
Ooh.
Now, the reason, by the way, they're called, what did I say, slap and flop, is because they are in something called lap and lop. And they're to do with guessing the answer that will be in RAM. This is how speculative we're getting now. It's pre-guessing the next memory address for lap and the next value for lop. It's not only saying, I think you're going to this memory location, it's also saying, and I think the value that will be there by then will be this. That's like,
Wow.
You're guessing at what's going to be in RAM? Wow.
No, that's not the malware. That's what Apple's doing.
That's these are the features that are being abused. Yeah, and there's a bug in how the features are implemented. And it actually lets malicious processes just read values out of memory. So it's one of the bad kind of leaks.
So tell me again why we're not supposed to light our hair on fire. This sounds really bad.
Well, because there are no real world attacks. So the first we are hearing about this is now. The first Apple heard about this was last summer because it was responsibly disclosed. There is no patch, but Apple are proactively monitoring and they say that there is no real world impact here. There is a proof of concept that in a 10-minute attack time can steal data from a Gmail tab and one or two other examples. So the problem is hypothetical. It's not just hypothetical. It's a real potential problem, but it's not happening today. So it's in that category that if you have a cabin in the woods and you don't lock the door, it is at risk from theft. But in reality, it's not a particularly big danger because it's a cabin in the middle of nowhere. So sure, the door is unlocked, but who's here? As long as it stays that way, we're okay. And Apple are watching. So I imagine if they see a problem, they will give a patch to turn off these optimizations.
So in the beginning, you were talking about if you already have malware on your system. This one doesn't sound like it requires malware on the system. It just needs malware in the tab.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So that's why this is one of the worst kind. I've said most of speculative execution is that if you have malware ... And a few nasty examples work over the browser. And this is in the subset. This is in that little slice of the speculative execution pie that is the worst slice. So, like I say, this is not a nothing burger. This is not a fire extinguisher story. But right now, today, this is not actually happening to real people. So right now, today, we don't need to panic about this. We can just carry on as normal. But there may come a day when we must patch. And so we should do that when it happens. So I will probably have a follow-up at some stage saying, so I told you back in 2025. And now it's happened. Another small note is that the advice I'm reading on the security community is that if you are a high-risk individual and you haven't yet turned on the advanced protection features in iOS and macOS, this might just nudge you over the top to turn them on. This is one of those, so it's called lockdown mode, and you swap security for safety because it disables a whole bunch of riskier features. It makes your OS...
security for convenience, you mean? You said security for safety.
You're swapping convenience for your safety, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you lose features, but the OS restricts itself to a subset of the possible features which are way, way safer, and it puts a whole bunch of shields up. So even if the bug kind of sort of exists, it completely dumps down the browser to the point where you have much stronger isolation and stuff. So the advice is, if you are an at-risk person, really, really think about lockdown mode. Like, if you weren't already, do now. So that's where we stand.
I would like to be a tiny little target that nobody cares about.
Agreed. And realistically, the first people to suffer here will be very high-value targets because whichever attackers figure this out, it's a high-value bug. They're not going to waste it on pray and spray. They're going to focus it in tightly. So the first Apple hear about it is going to be against vulnerable people. and then it will expand wider. That's how these things go.
Right.
Right, so that's one reason we need a palette cleanser done. Now let's move on into the worthy warnings section. So
Nope. Action alerts.
No. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've been scrolling too aggressively. Patchy, patch, basically. iOS 18.3 and macOS Sequoia 15.3 patch Apple's first 0 day of 2025. We were a whole month in and we have our first 0 day. And then also special attention to any of our listeners who use Git, which is quite a lot of us. If you use the GitHub desktop app, make sure you patch that app because a bug was found in that app and it affects that app way more than anything else. But on deeper inspection, that bug has a little friend bug in core Git itself, and some other Git clients might also be vulnerable. So people with GitHub desktop must patch. Other users should check for update.
All right, I just opened GitHub desktop because I haven't in a while, and it said, hey, an update is ready to install.
Good. Then you're on it. And another one I thought was worth flagging to a subset of our users. A lot of our users are advanced enough that they'll run a NAS, a network-attached storage system, on their home network to store their backups, movies, whatever. And there's two really big players. There's Synology and QNAP. Well, it's the QNAP people I want to pay attention now. They have fixed 6 pretty serious vulnerabilities, and you should... it is 6. Sorry, half reading my show notes here. Patch if you're a QNAP user. So
all right.
Now we can worthy warning. I've stopped telling you every time malicious advertisements are there being malicious because that is just a cat and mouse game that Google seem to have lost. It is just every single week my RSS reader is full of news about a malicious advert that makes it into Google that is trying to trick people, usually out of their Bitcoin. It's usually cryptocurrency stealing. But one crossed the radar this week and it affects our community. They're going after our people. So I'm just going to revisit this topic. They were going after Mac users who would be the kind of Mac users who would use Homebrew, which is us. A lot of people in our community. So what they did was they bought an ad which appeared to be an ad for Homebrew, and everything visually in the ad used Homebrew's actual URL of brew.sh. But if you clicked on it, you landed on a clone that looked identical to Brew's real website, including the brew.sh branding. But if you looked in the address bar and you were paying really close attention, there was a typo in the address bar. It was brew with an extra e.sh. And the link was to a GitHub repository that was also malicious and also a perfect clone. And if you follow the install instructions, you got malware.
That would be hard to undo.
It would.
That could be a real tangly thing with lots of dependencies that could get changed. And
And it's that kind of malware. They give you what you asked for and some malware, so you won't even notice you were duped because you will get a real copy of Homebrew as well, and so your problem will be solved. You'll just have made a new problem you are not aware of. Particularly malicious. Hat tip to Alistair and the Podfeet Slack, because that was the first place it came across my radar. Now, over the following days, it came across my radar in stereo, but it was still nice to see Alistair be the first one to notice and raise the flag. And it's a good warning for our community.
yeah, there. By the way, we have a Security Bits segment or channel within our Slack just for this kind of thing. So that's great.
Yeah. And I'm going to use this to preview something I've had in draft for ages now and that I'm now going to put a little bit more effort into. And at some stage, I'm going to ask Alison to schedule a Chit Chat Lite because I have been doing something for the last 2 years that I didn't want to tell people about until I was certain I genuinely wanted to recommend it. I have not been using ad-based search for 2 years because I have been upset by the the perverse incentives and how Google has been getting worse, and then all of these malicious things. So I have been paying for a search engine called Kagi, and it's not expensive. It's 0 ads. I'm the customer, and it's better than Google, especially better than today's Google, which has really gotten poor.
Yeah, today's Google is not useful. It really isn't.
It's not. Kagi is. Kagi's fantastic. And you
heard
can
of that
fine tune it. So you can tell it, oh, more of this. So Kagi knows I love answers from Stack Overflow. So it will rank those up my personal listing. And if I come across a site I don't like, I tell Kagi, don't give me those again. And that domain just gets bumped right down. So my search
So the first time
results
you get
are
a
now,
WikiHow, you go
yeah,
down
exactly.
on that
You go,
one.
no, don't like WikiHow. Yeah, exactly. And it learns from you. So you see search results tailored to you. So for me, when I search for generic terms, I get the programming based answer, right? If I search for something that uses a word that has multiple meanings, I get my answer. It's really nice. But I didn't want to recommend it until I'd really bedded it in. But it's been 2 years. My renewal email arrived in my inbox on Wednesday this week. I was like, okay, that's the second annual renewal. Maybe I can talk about this now.
And you paid the renewal, I take
I
it.
did, with great
Gladly.
pleasure. I have a family plan, in fact. We're all using it.
I have to say, that's the reason I'm using ChatGPT more and more is I use it for search because I can be so tailored in what I want to know. I would like to know where the menu is in Mac Whisper that will do this. And it'll just tell me. Now, it's often not right the first couple of tries. I'll say, no, there is no settings or whatever. That doesn't exist. Oh, my bad. And then it'll get the right answer. Or it'll keep trying to tell me an answer and it's actually not available in the tool. That's the other problem I have with it. But at least I know it's just only talking about this one very, very precise thing I want to know. You try to search for that in Google and you'll get nothing,
Yeah. An interesting problem with LLMs is they're too eager to please. They don't like to say, I don't know, and then they start confabulating. If they were better at saying there is not enough data in my neural network to answer this, I think we'd get less nonsense. So, anyway.
Yeah. It does remind me of when Dr. Gary and her wife Devin and Steve and I went out to not Sequoia, but yeah, maybe it was Sequoia. We were out in Kings Canyon and we didn't realize that we would have no internet. We literally had zero internet for like 5 days. And it became so freeing because when somebody would ask you a question, you could just make stuff up because nobody could challenge you. Nobody could fact check anything you said. How tall is that tree? 3,278 feet. And it's actually 4,768 years old. And they'd go, good to know.
Interesting.
It got funnier and funnier and funnier. The answers just became wildly absurd because nobody could challenge you.
That's brilliant. Well, that's what an LLM is like. They just do that all the time. Okay, so from an attack I've told you about many times with a new twist to what I have noticed has become a pattern. I wasn't sure if this was a pattern, but I'm now calling it. This is a trend. Attackers have noticed something. They have noticed that over the years, CAPTCHAs have never stood still. They are always finding new and interesting hoops for us to jump through. And so a lot of people don't think deeply when something pretends to be a CAPTCHA. Prove you're human by doing ... That seems to have our shields down because doing stupid things to make the computer happy is normal. So they're now starting to say, run this PowerShell command to prove you're human. And then you install malware. And people do it.
Oh, geez.
So my message is simple. Don't let your shields come down. If something says prove you're a human by doing something unusual, stop and think. This is now a way people are trying to get by people stopping and thinking. Because we're too automatic to prove we're human. Just stop and think.
Wow. Yeah, they are getting more creative in the things that they ask us to do. The only one I actually like is one where you've got the two circles and you drag to make the little puzzle match up. That one's fun.
Yeah, at least it's a game,
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you mentioned LLMs, which is pretty good timing, because we have a perfect illustration of the dangers of using a cloud-hosted LLM. DeepSeek, who started the last 2 weeks by making giant big news by releasing a very impressive model that takes surprisingly little CPU to run, and apparently, if we believe what they say, very little resources to train, but we kind of have to believe them on that. We know it takes not a lot of resources to run because it's an open weights model, so we can run it ourselves. So that bit's definitely true. It's also true that it's pretty powerful, which is also cool. So a lot of the stock market went kablooey, right? Because the moat around OpenAI suddenly looked rather shallow. It's like, oh, no one can challenge us because we have billions. And the Chinese went, we can.
Hold my beer.
Exactly. So that was fun to watch. But a few
Unless
days
you
later,
own stock in any company in your 401k.
That's a good point.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was a massive dump to the market. And if you've got mutual funds, you own Nvidia, you own all of those companies. So
I just remembered where my pension is. Yeah, my pension has an instruction not to invest in tobacco, firearms, and a few other things. Oh, petrol companies, which means I'm even more exposed to tech. Because if you rule out those big corporations, what are you left with? Apple, Google, Microsoft,
Amazon. Yep.
Okay, now I'm cranky now. But anyway, I'm even more cranky.
It wasn't fun to watch.
Yeah,
but still fun to watch.
Kind of, because I don't like Sam Altman, so yeah, I'm torn.
The emperor having no clothes is always fun. I don't care who you are. We love to knock down somebody on top. That's just what we are as humans. Okay, so we've got DeepSeek. DeepSeek is working great. Yeah, it's a new hotness. So what's the danger here?
Well, they didn't do a very good job of securing their backend. So they had a data bucket on a cloud provider where they forgot to put a password on. So some attackers helped themselves to every single prompt that's ever been sent to DeepSeek and all the user information. So each time you ask an LLM a question, you're sending that question to the cloud, and then you're trusting the cloud to not do anything malicious with it or incompetent. Because it could be either. Right.
So in thinking about that, it's not necessarily that you would give away PIA or, go in and say, I've got gout and, what are the cures for it or something like that. Now that's associated with my name, but just that everything I asked, man, that's a good phishing thing.
That is true.
I see that you're running Text Expander and Mac Whisper on your Mac, and you need to understand that there's this vulnerability. You need to download this thing. Well, that's true. They must know me.
Right, exactly. So that is the most obvious and most easy to exploit danger, perfectly explained. But there is another fact that we're actually all very unique. You don't need very many data points to assemble a set of one. We've seen this proven with cell phone records and stuff, where even just very anonymous data can be de-anonymized with shockingly few data points. So just enough information that you're in California and say 5 or 6 other apparently meaningless pieces of information, it's surprising how quickly it narrows it down to a set of one, which effectively de-anonymizes you. So just bear in mind that this is a real risk. And so you should use an LLM you trust, and you should think twice about what you say in those prompts. And I am going to flag the fact that one LLM is not like the others. Now, it's not like the others in many ways, one of which being capabilities, but there is a swing to that roundabout. Apple Intelligence is architected in such a way that the prompts cannot be read by Apple. They have a white paper explaining how the encryption works on this. It's end-to-end encryption. Not even Apple know what you prompt Apple Intelligence. So while it mightn't be great, and it isn't, it is private. So you can use it much more freely, but you will get much less from it. It's a trade-off.
So all the terrible answers that it's going to give you and the complete and utter lack of usefulness will stay on your machine.
Yes, exactly. So the summaries that tell you lies are private.
I don't know if it lies. It spends a lot of time going, I don't know. I had no idea. beats me. One of my favorites is on the Mac. One of the things they advertise is that you can ask it how to find things in Mac OS. And I've asked it, where is the command that allows me to do this in system settings? And it's like, can I go ask ChatGPT? I don't know. It's right there. I mean,
that's the one thing that
should be
know.
Table stakes, right? Right? That's the low-hanging fruit.
What I will say Apple Intelligence does have an advantage on is if you want its help that doesn't involve world knowledge. So if you have a very personal email that you'd like some help rewording, I would send that to Apple Intelligence because you're not asking it to know about the universe. You're just asking it to know about your English, which it does know about. And it does so completely privately. So if it's a personal email, I'd rather have Apple Intelligence help me make it sound better than ChatGPT. That's the one thing I think is actually genuinely useful in Apple Intelligence.
Yeah, that's a good point. I shouldn't flavor this with only the things I ask it because I don't ever ask it to do that. I was enjoying yesterday looking at Apple summaries. I use the tool Mona for Mastodon, and every couple of hours I get a notification telling me that someone has, the summary says that someone has shared a photo to me of a green square with 2 arrows on it. That's the repost symbol. And I get it all day long. Close. It's just, I'm looking going, wow, that would be useful if that wasn't completely stupid.
So it's good enough to know that there's a pattern here. This same icon shows up over and over again. It just doesn't know what it means.
Yep. Bless its heart.
Bless its heart. Yeah, look, it can only get better, right? Right. Okay. So that is where we are there. One last story. This one is very finely focused. I'm slightly breaking my rule of not telling you about data breaches where people have technically been informed, but this is a biggie. So in the United States, a lot of school districts are customers of a company called PowerSchool. And that company provides different levels of service to different school districts. That company suffered a catastrophic data breach. They were very badly hacked, which means that every school district who uses PowerSchools is affected in some way, but the actual effect is completely different depending on exactly what that school district was contracting PowerSchool to do. So the only advice is to contact your school. So if you don't know if your school uses PowerSchool or if you know they do and you want to understand, you should contact your school. They will know what their exposure is.
I would suggest not yelling at them for it.
Oh, yes, you're asking them for help. Or your school is not at fault.
I think you said the exact correct sentence. If you'd like to understand, that doesn't mean that you're going to be able to fix it, do anything about it. Just knowledge is power. That's all you're really going to get, right? Because if the data's out there, the data's out there. They can't fix that.
Yeah, they can't pull it back, but it's helpful to know what the baddies know. Because that gives you an idea of how you could be spearfished with it.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's not a good story. I debated with myself and it technically breaks the rules, but I think this is important enough to break the rules. So
it's about the children.
Yeah, kind of, Okay, notable news then. These have been ordered in such a way that we don't end feeling miserable. But that doesn't mean we don't start feeling miserable. So,
goody.
The first thing is the news gave us a timely reminder that the NSO group are not an N of one. So these are the Israeli, we call them a grey hat company that sells spyware called Pegasus. They are not the only company selling such spyware. And in fact, there's a cluster of such companies in Israel. I think because the Mossad have a lot of former employees with a lot of skills. I think that's why there's a cluster there, but there absolutely is a cluster. Anyway, Meta has confirmed that WhatsApp was yet again targeted. This time, 90 journalists and activists are known to have been attacked by a very similar piece of spyware by a different Israeli grey hat company. So this problem is not solved just because NSO Group lost a court case against Meta in the United States.
Wow.
Now, I imagine there's another court case about to start because Meta know that they can successfully sue these companies. So I imagine they're firing up their lawyers right now, but here we are anyway. Just to underline the point that you shouldn't do anything important over a cellular network, some security researchers spent some time having a wee poke. How vulnerable are our cellular networks? They decided they needed to give this a fancy pants name, so they called it ransacked. And the answer is over 100 different flaws in LTE and 5G network implementations used in the Western world.
Wait. I need this much more defined. What do you mean by trusting cellular networks? Are you saying if I'm making a telephone call? Are you talking about SMS? What is this about? Both. All.
Oh, yeah. All. If it travels over the cellular network and it's not data, because your data channel
that was the other thing
separate.
I was going to say, data. Okay.
Yeah, so your data channel is protected by TLS and end-to-end encryption and all of those things that your apps assume the internet is a horrible, insecure place. So if you take those apps and run them over the cellular network, it's already assuming it's a train wreck. And it is a train wreck, so assumption valid, but protection's in place. So
okay, so if you're using WhatsApp over data, it's not
you're
bad.
fine. Yes, it's designed to be run over an insecure carrier because it's designed for the internet. So the fact that the cellular networks are actually insecure, but we used to think they were secure, doesn't change that. So your data connections are unchanged. But if you do it in voice over a cell phone number instead of a voice over IP app like WhatsApp or whatever, then assume anyone can intercept that message because they can. And if you send it over SMS, assume anyone could intercept it because they can.
Yay.
Yeah. But look, we knew this. This is just some evidence of the scale of the problem. 100 different flaws in LTE and 5G. So not legacy stuff. LTE and 5G. Right? That's now.
LTE is pretty legacy at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, 5G isn't though.
5G's been out a long time, but it's not everywhere.
It's not everywhere, and there's nothing better, right? The LTE and 5G are kind of the best you can hope for, or certainly here.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see on the icon on my phone. I don't see 5G, I see LTE.
Okay, well, let's have some
3G.
real fun and talk about the TikTok ban, Bart.
Oh, we've one more
Bart,
story first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped over one.
You did, yeah, but you're setting us up for that lovely one. So I generally don't tell you about the typical cyber warfare sort of stuff because most of it is like hypothetical and all it is bad news. It's like, oh, we think they might be hacking into our power systems and stuff. Well, what are you going to do about it? Do you run a power system? No. So I don't tell you about it. But this one sort of caught my eye because it's different. Healthcare providers will often buy devices from the cheapest provider. And those devices these days tend to be connected to the network to make the hospital's job easier. So American hospitals contain many examples of a monitor that gives you blood pressure, heart rate. You know those monitors that go beep when you're in hospital?
Yes.
There's a Chinese provider that has sold a lot of them into the United States. And it has now emerged the firmware has a back door and they just constantly talk to a server in China. And the company has not given a legitimate reason for why on earth it's sending every patient's data to China. So CISA have said, disconnect from the network, turn these smart devices into dumb devices or landfill.
Okay, since you just said you don't tell us about stuff we can't do anything about, how do we know whether our doctor's office is using one of these? And I assume we go, nope, not that one?
Well, to be honest, no. So this is under the notable news section. I think this is just news to sort of make it clear that when we tell people that there is a risk of buying stuff from China, there is an actual risk of buying stuff from China. So when you're buying stuff and you have the choice between a reputable brand that's not from China or a brand that is from China, honestly, maybe you want to spend a little bit more is the actual takeaway I was hoping people take. So the threat
I don't think
is real.
A large percentage of us are not in charge of buying equipment for hospitals. And I know you're trying to be more generic than that. Right,
yeah,
but I'm looking.
Example.
I'm looking for the names here, and I'm going to write them down. Epsimed and Contech, and I think there's going to be a third one in here because one of them was a rename of the other one. But I want to see whether I'm just going to put a little note next time I go to the doctor's office and they want to do, something
Look at
that
the
goes
logo.
beep, I'm going to go look and see what the company is.
That's an interesting point. Yeah, and there's actually pictures in some of the articles, so you can sort of memorize what they look like.
Yeah, unfortunately, these are they're showing a picture of the big ones that are, heart rate and blood pressure and everything. They're the ones when you're really not doing well, not just I'm going in to get a blood pressure cuff.
Yeah. But anyway, I just thought that was actually quite noteworthy, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Okay, now TikTok. So we didn't
By the
mention
way,
this last
Bart
time.
and I went back and forth a couple of times on, do we talk about this or not? Because it's going to be real hard to do it without making our political views known. But we're going to stick to the facts, hopefully.
Yes. And to be honest, this is bipartisan silliness, so I don't actually feel a need to get political on this one. It was bipartisan bill signed by one president. It's now in effect under another president, so it's not party specific. It's just silly.
Well, actually started by one president, then
Yeah, who changed his
extended
mind.
by a second president, and then back to the first president. So it was started by the first of the 45, 46, and 47.
Yes, if we're going to give them numbers, good. Right. Anyway, so we didn't talk about it 2 weeks ago because at that stage it was going to happen and it was really uncertain what would happen. And I didn't feel like writing the show notes. And when I sort of asked you, should I, you said no, and I bit your hand off. I was like, great, I won't talk about this. But now it's real. So on the 19th of January, which is the last day of President Biden's term, the law came into effect. And at that point in time, it became illegal for any network service provider to provide cloud services to TikTok in the United States and any app store to host their apps. And so on that day, their website went dark, or their web service went dark, and the apps disappeared from the app stores. And the next day was President Trump's inauguration, and he issued an executive order which said, "Dear DOJ, don't prosecute anyone for breaking this law for the next 75 days."
By the way, someone is not you using TikTok. It's the hosting providers.
It's
that
the
he's talking
hosting
about.
providers. So in terms of the actual companies, it's Akamai and Oracle. So Akamai and Oracle provide TikTok in the United States.
And Apple and Google.
No, they provide the app stores. They're the other category. So the two categories
Right.
are cloud providers and app stores. So the cloud providers are Akamai and Oracle, and the app stores are Apple and Google.
Right. But the executive order was about both, right?
It just said anyone who breaks the law.
Right. So it included both. That's what I was just saying.
It
All
included
four
both.
companies.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, an executive order doesn't make a law not exist. The only way to make a law not exist is for Congress to pass a law that says, ignore that one. Right? You basically replace the law with a new law or repeal the law. Or for a court to rule it is unconstitutional. And it has to be unconstitutional. The court can't just throw it out for the crack, right? The only excuse to get rid of a law is it breaks the Constitution. Constitution beats law, therefore law loses.
Well,
They're
and
the
right
only
in the
ways for
middle
the
of
law to
there,
go away.
ByteDance had gone to the Supreme Court saying it was unconstitutional, that it broke free speech, and the Supreme Court overwhelmingly said, no, it doesn't, it's constitutional. Or, well,
Yes.
not necessarily it's constitutional, but the thing you specifically asked about, no, that doesn't fly.
Yeah, so that was about 5 days before the ban came into effect? The Supreme
Yeah,
Court were like,
if
no, you're
that,
Hail
maybe
Mary,
3.
no.
Yeah, I feel like that was Friday and it was Sunday that things shut down.
That sounds plausible. It was very close. They really brought it to the wire. But yeah, the judgment came in. This is not unconstitutional. So that means that the law is still the law. There's just a promise that the Department of Justice won't prosecute people for breaking the law. And then a split occurred. Oracle and Akamai went, okay, if you promise not to prosecute us, we'll bring the service back online. And so the app burst back into life. And so everyone says Twitter is back, or sorry, not Twitter, TikTok is back. But it never came back in the app stores because Apple and Google are like, no, the law says this, the law hasn't been repealed, therefore this. And so they are continuing to have the apps not in the store. So we're actually in a very strange limbo. We're now quite a week and a bit into 75 days. Anyone who gets a new iPhone who has to restore their iPhone, they can't get TikTok back. And the promise not to prosecute evaporates in 75 days. And a promise not to prosecute means nothing. It's not a legal thing. It's just a promise. So there's a link to a Lawfare Media article that explains perfectly the legal limbo we are in. And the conclusion is basically that the promise has no standing. So the statute of limitations is in effect. So at any point in the next 5 years, any administration could change their mind. And the exposure per day is millions of dollars in fines under the law for Akamai and Oracle. They are taking a spectacular risk. Spectacular. And Apple and Google are going, nope.
There's an interesting side effect you might not know about that I think you'll get a kick out of it being from Europe, is when TikTok went dark in the US, the people in the rest of the world discovered that they were being fed primarily US content in TikTok and not content from their own countries. Like to an overwhelming effect, like they would, if you were from Lithuania, you never saw anything from Lithuania. You only would see the US. So when we all disappeared, well, part of it, a lot of them did really funny things going, oh, don't leave me here. I had to talk to the French today. You know, it was very, very funny. A lot of them were quite clever, but they also have come back going, the algorithm changed. When we came back, it changed. They can see their own content. And two things emerged, Eurotalk, TOK, and World Talk, TOK. And so now you can follow that hashtag and you get to see people from everywhere, and it's wonderful. I mean, there's so much great, interesting content. There's this Lithuanian woman I've been following. She's like, man, I was just here talking to myself for a little bit. Now people are listening to me. This is crazy. This is really fun.
Wow.
So it's just sort of an interesting, good side effect.
That's a much better side, the fact that a whole bunch of people went to a different Chinese app with even worse privacy problems that didn't even have an English name, so they made one up. Red Book or something.
I did think that was comedic. Somebody was telling me that one of the TikTokers I follow said that they went over there and they said it was hilarious because people were embracing their Chinese spy friends. One of them made maybe I said this last time, but one of them made their account name their social security number.
I guess just
might as well.
Exactly.
But apparently that Red Book or whatever it was called, that's Red Note, I think it was. It's dropped off. It is not the most popular app now. Yeah. About 10% down right now, according to Daily Tech News Show.
Oh, okay.
Which you'd expect to see because you can't love again.
Yes. Okay, while we're here, we're going to do a few more stories that don't make me happy, and then we're done with that. So, as well as the whole TikTok thing, which took all the media stuff, and there was a few other pardons that may have taken some news, there actually have been other developments in the early days of the Trump administration which have a direct impact on cybersecurity, and they've flown largely under the radar. So the first thing I'm going to do is link to a fantastic summary by Brian Krebs, who just goes through all of the news that affect cybersecurity. And that's, if you're interested, have a read of that first link in the show notes. Two very specific things I will call out: a pardon of the founder of Silk Road, the original cybercrime forum. Like, they made buying drugs, hitmen, malware online a thing. They have been cloned a million times, but Silk Road were the original and worst of the malware forums. And so after 11 years in prison, Ross Ulbricht is a free man.
Why?
That I don't even get.
What?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, when you get rid of just about the entire federal government, then the Department of Homeland Security's cybersecurity work is disrupted. So specifically, the Department of Homeland Security have an advisory committee on cybersecurity, and they have been evaporated. They don't have any humans anymore, so their work is...
Again, seems the opposite of what you would think the administration has said they wanted.
Yes, I will leave it to people to draw their own.
America first. No.
Yes.
Okay, I can't. I got to stop talking.
Yeah, like I say, we want to get these facts out. We're done with those now, and we can put that aside. Also in the United States, which is why I put this story next, the Electronic Frontier Foundation sent out a press release that made me go, yay! which is not something I get often from the EFF because their press releases are usually depressing. I am a long time and dedicated member who will continue to pay them every year for their good work. But most of their updates are, this is broken, this is broken, this is broken. We're doing this to fight it. Please help. But this time, the subject was victory in all caps. I was like, ooh, okay, I'll read you. Basically, they have scored a pretty substantial rule against unconstitutional seizure of data in searches near the border. So this is something they have said for a long time was unconstitutional, and they finally got a court to agree with them. So this may take a while to have an on-the-ground effect, but this is an important ruling to reduce the amount of data searches on people without warrants.
So it's talking about Section 702. Do you know what that's? Is this about when you're crossing the border, they want to take your laptop and look at it?
Yeah, and the definition of border is like this zone of something like 200 miles. So there's entire swaths of America that are in this zone where your rights didn't exist, and now they do again.
You're in San Diego.
Right, exactly. I mean, think of how long the border is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is
good.
Probably also in the good pile, PayPal have settled a case against them over a data breach in 2022. And what caught my eye here was the reason for the settlement. It wasn't because they were breached. That wasn't their crime that they were being prosecuted for. Under the law, companies that handle money have a responsibility to do basic security and to train their staff to use the tools the company deploys. And the reason PayPal were fined was for inadequately deploying their tools and training their staff, and they have made changes to address those shortcomings. So this is good. Yeah.
Who gets the $2 million? Do I get some?
No, it's not a class action. It's a fine. So that goes into the government coffers, I'm afraid.
Maybe that's taxes I don't have to pay. Still good.
Oh, actually, you're right. Yeah, 1 cent less, if even. In a surprise to no one, there have been GDPR complaints filed against TikTok and Temu for sending European data to China. Oh, look, the sun rose in the east. Who'd have thought? And then I thought I'd go towards some good news. So they're not giant changes, but they're just positive things in the security of products that are very popular. And we like that. So Android have added a nice feature to protect your most dangerous settings when you're not in a trusted location. So if you're away from a trusted location like home and you try to edit some sensitive settings, you have to do biometric. So you have to use your fingerprint or whatever, and then it'll let you edit the settings. So just an extra little shield when you're away from a safe place. That's good.
I hope they're doing that a little better than the way Apple implemented that, where they consider a trusted location a place you go a lot. So the gym, it would consider a trusted location because you go there all the time. Work would be a trusted location. I might suggest that, having my data swiped while I'm at the gym or at work might be a not trusted location, but that's just me. I wonder if they did a better job.
Well, Apple's feature was intended to protect you from the threat at the time, which was phones being swiped out of people's hands in nightclubs and then taking over their Apple ID. So Apple were trying to solve a different problem, and they did solve that problem, but they didn't solve anything else.
No, but
and they had an opportunity.
It considers a trusted location the gym. It doesn't say, oh, this is a nightclub, therefore it's untrusted. The gym is an easy place to get your phone swiped.
But that wasn't the thing that was happening, right? You had the big exposés in the New York Times and stuff describing a real problem. So they addressed the real problem, and they had an opportunity to address a whole class of problem, but they didn't. They only addressed a very specific case. No, you're right. It wasn't a great fix.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just saying, I hope Android did a little better job. Or let you tailor it to go, no, this is not a trusted location. All they have to do is put in something that says not a trusted location.
Yeah. You just need to be able to approve. Here's a list of what we think are trusted locations. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, I haven't looked into the very fine detail here, so I don't know, but it just seems it can't make it any worse, right? Even if this is imperfect, it's still better than not having a setting. So, good. Another problem I've been flagging to everyone over the last couple of months is that attackers are very focused on using browser plugins for evil. And there's a story in the show notes just to prove my point. Some security researchers demonstrated how much damage one malicious plugin can do. And the answer is basically, once you install the plugin, they were able to successfully completely take over someone's Google account with nothing more than just installing this dodgy plugin. And that was kind of surprising that you could leverage something so small as one plugin to a full account takeover, but they show you how it's done. And you're like, ooh, okay. So the problem is definitely real. And one of the ways it is going to have to be addressed is to switch to allow listing of plugins within corporate environments. But that's hard.
Yeah.
So Google had promised they would provide a mechanism, and they have. A corporation can now have a custom app store. So that if you're on the corporate Android device, when you go to the App Store, you see your company's App Store, and they choose which plugins appear in that App Store. So you get the normal experience of searching for a plugin and installing it, but you're only seeing the ones that your company has allowed into their private App Store.
So this is specifically for extensions for Chrome, not full-fledged apps.
Correct. This is purely the browser
not really
plugin
an app
problem.
store, but yeah.
Well, they call it the App Store, right? When you're in Chrome and you go to get plugins, they call it the App Store or the Play Store.
Okay, your notes say it's called Web Store. That's why I was clarifying.
Yeah, possibly. Okay, I don't live in Google land. I may not have my words right, and they probably changed them last week.
Right, but it might be more specific. I think it's called Google Play as their app store, but Web Store might be specific to Chrome.
Possibly. I'll be honest, I'm not a Chrome user because it's become a RAM hog.
Yeah,
and it's full of Google spyware. I don't like it anymore. I did for a while, but I gave up on it a few years ago.
But remember those Chrome extensions work in Microsoft Edge, which is the one I choose.
Absolutely. I mean, this is not a panacea, but it is a step in the right direction. So again, it's good to see progress. This is a real problem. It is going to have to be addressed by everyone, and Google have taken a nice step. So I just thought we should say, nice one, Google. Bitwarden have also done what I think is a jujitsu move. I think this is brilliant. So Bitwarden want more people to have MFA to protect their Bitwarden vaults. So they're doing it by making not having MFA more difficult than having MFA, because MFA is always an extra step. If you don't have MFA, every time you try to log in to their web interface, they will send you an email and make you click the link. So you have to do an email loop every time. Or you could just install MFA.
So they put sand in the gears to get you to go the direction they want. That's genius. I like it.
It is genius. I was kind of impressed. They're a company that have really impressed me, to be honest. The fact that it's an open source product with the option of some paid for services to make it nicer to use, I like their model. It's kind of impressive. And also, since everyone's always on about the doom and gloom of AI, I wanted to flag 2 examples of how AI helps us. So Microsoft have started testing an AI-powered feature in Edge that will detect tech support scams and tell you this page is probably a tech support scam. Given how damaging those are, yay! Huh. Another new trend that is emerging is phishing attacks through Microsoft Teams, because if you're working in an organization where Teams is how you chat to people, your shields are mentally down. You think of Teams as an internal thing, but the thing is, it's not internal. People in other organizations can talk to you too. And so it's proving to be surprisingly effective for attackers to use Teams to sneak by people's spidey sense. So Teams is getting phishing attack alerts within Teams. So inside Teams, right at the point you're being targeted, it will pop up and say, we think this is a scam. That's helpful.
I like it. That's
yes.
cool.
Excellent. Also, just a reminder that even though I say that, the various Google stores are a bit dangerous and there's lots of malware in there, it is a cat and mouse game, and the cat is not doing nothing. Google have told us how busy they have been as a cat. 2.36 million apps were ejected from the Play Store in 2024. So it's a busy cat.
Cripes. Yeah, we give them a hard time for anything getting through, but when you realize it's that kind of volume, that's amazing.
It is kind of impressive. And then finally, if you're thinking, oh, I'll play with some of those hacking tools, what could possibly go wrong? I'll just have some fun hacking my friends. Well, funny enough, but the real hackers hacked 18,000 script kiddies with fake malware. So people looking to get malware to attack their friends, probably to boot them off a game or something silly like that, were infected with malware because they went looking for malware. I think this is cyber Darwinism in action, but just a reminder, when you play with fire, when you're playing with fire, you could get burned. So don't do that. Okay, we're out of the evil stuff now. I want to give one top tip to Ken Ray. So Ken pointed out that when he was a kid, you would have a family password, which you would have to use, say, if a stranger showed up to pick you up from school, saying, oh, your mom sent me to pick you up. You'd say, well, what's the password? And you'd have a pre-agreed password because you didn't have a cell phone to phone your mom, right? And so that was a very good solution. And it was a done thing a few decades ago. We need to do that again because AI has now arrived at the point where deep fakes are happening many times a week in the real world to actual people in America, pretending to be your son or whatever. And when you combine basically the amount of presence we all have on social media and stuff, it's easy enough to get a sample of someone's voice. There's been so many data leaks. It's kind of disturbingly easy to have enough information to use some AI to get a usable fake. And it's now real. It's happening. People are being actually defrauded. And so the simple fix is a password. If someone phones you pretending to be your son or your grandson or your nephew or your niece or your uncle or whatever, and that they need you to mail them some money urgent or to wire them some money urgently, just ask for a password.
So I think this is a good hat tip to Ken. And the checklist is a great podcast. He does a really good job. But we talked about this in December because this came out in the FBI made the recommendation is where this is coming from. In December. I think we talked about it here. I definitely have talked about it with other people. I had a lot of fun listening to the Random But Memorable podcast, which is by the 1Password people. And they talked about it too and choosing it. And my family has one now.
Excellent. And this is...
I'm telling you what it is.
I was going to say, the next time I am physically in person with my family, we shall have one too. But I don't want to do that over WhatsApp. Phone. I could use the insecure phone. You
could use it in data.
I need a hearts and minds conversation first because there's no point in setting a password if people haven't bought into it.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a password when I talk to them. I'd call it like a safe word.
Yeah, see, with
code word.
That has other connotations. Code word. That's the word I'm going to pick. Code word. I just want to have the conversation so that people take it seriously, and then I'm going to gamify picking the code word. Turn it into something we do for fun, try to make it a fun pun or something. And if it's gamified, it should be memorable. So that's my plan.
To get I like the idea of having the conversation where you're like, okay, imagine you get an extremely urgent call. I'm in prison. I've been arrested and I have no money and I lost my wallet and I need your help.
Yeah. And that's how they do it. It's classic urgency, get your shields down. And so the AI doesn't even have to be great. With
voice AI, where it used to be it was somebody else was calling on your behalf, but now it can be your voice saying, Grandma,
Mom,
I'm in prison.
Yeah. The thing to bear in mind, because cell phones tend not to be perfect quality, the fact that the deep fakes aren't perfect is a feature, not a bug. So, it's clever of the evil people.
By tomorrow, they'll be perfect too. So
that's true too. Okay, now we get to cleanse some palates. You have the coolest one, so I'm going to go first so that we can end on your one. So I was listening to yet another episode of the Freakonomics podcast, which I love, and they're usually about the economics of something interesting. But this time it was a conversation with an AI researcher who is of the opinion that it is wrong for the likes of OpenAI to scrape artists' work without their consent. And rather than trying to fight it in court and stuff, this researcher was trying to find ways of poisoning the data so that when you post a picture of your artwork online, what the human sees and what the AI sees are different.
Ooh,
It's fascinating. Now, I believe that it's fair use and that actually this isn't a copyright issue. It's a different issue about intellectual property, not copyright. I think you shouldn't be able to say, make me a photograph in the style of X. It's not that the data shouldn't be in the LLM. It's that you shouldn't be able to make fakes. But that's a whole,
And remember, the data's not in the LLM.
Exactly.
The data,
Yeah,
it
I did a
trained
whole,
the LLM.
Yeah, I did a whole LTA on why I don't think this is actually about copyright, but that's irrelevant. What this guy was doing
LTA stands for
just,
Let's Talk Apple, by the way.
Thank you. Let's-talk.ie. While we're at plugging, I don't do it very often. So I don't necessarily agree with this guy, but the work he's doing is fascinating. And the conversation he has is just so cool. The guy's an academic, doesn't actually have a horse in the race. He's just doing really cool AI research. And I was immensely surprised by how much I enjoyed the episode. So link in show notes.
Very cool. Very cool. So the thing I'm going to talk about is abc.net.au, which I assume is Australia, has come out with a really cool data visualization of the top 4-digit passcodes that people tend to use. And the data came from the Have I Been Pwned database. And it's really cool. It's 2 axes. The vertical axis is the first 2 digits. Horizontal axis is the second 2 digits. And it's basically like a black with green dots on it. And the brighter the dot is, that's more people use that particular 4-digit PIN code. And as you scroll, it's really well done. As you scroll the web page, the graph stays still and it tells you more and more information about what you're seeing. So the first thing you notice is there's a bright diagonal line, which means everybody does 2 digits, 2 digits. They do 1111 and 2222 and 3333, or they double the first one and then double the second one. That's a real common thing. You can also see that one of the bright dots is if you swipe straight down on a phone keypad. And it's a really fun graphic to go through and scroll. And I'm not going to tell you all of them because that would take all the fun out of it. But you scroll and you get to see what all these dots mean and figure out, do you really want to use any of these as your PIN code for your ATM or for your phone? And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and this rang a bell with me. So I thought this was a recycling of a story I'd seen before, but actually it's the same research redone with a better data set. So a few years ago, someone did a similar plot from the data breach from one bank. And so they had data and they visualized it on the same, 100 grid system. Not 100, 1,000, whatever amount of permutations there are. And the patterns were similar, but this is a much better graph because it's all of Have I Been Pwned. And also Troy Hunt gave it a big thumbs up in his weekly review. But what really strikes me is, so that diagonal line, it covers 1111, 22222, but it also covers 2121 or 4343. And so if you look at the graph, it's actually punctuated with 10 even brighter dots, which are 1111, 2222, 3333, they're even brighter. Right. And the other thing, there's an L shape near the bottom left corner.
I didn't want to give all that away, Bart.
No,
Bart, that's in the visualization.
I want to say why it's an L. It's American.
Yeah, I wanted them
Europeans.
to learn it from doing it because it's one of the funnest parts of it. Yeah, it's very, very cool. By the way, it's 10,000.
Yes, it would be, wouldn't it? 100 times 100. Yes.
Yeah. No spoilers. Well, anyway, that was fun. I really got a kick out of that.
Yeah, and like Alison says, the presentation, because they don't just have the text, they also put arrows on the graph. So you don't even have to go guess. When they say, you can see in this part of the graph gets an arrow.
Yeah, I was spending a lot of time trying to do it myself, and then I realized, oh, look, if I scroll, it'll point to it and explain to me what those dots mean. It's very, very interesting. Well done.
It is fascinating. Right. Okay. I think we have talked for way too long. So I will say what I always say. Until next time, stay patched so you stay secure.
Well, that is going to wind up this Mammoth Show for this week. Did you know you can email me at allison@podfeet.com anytime you like? I love to get emails. If you have a question or a suggestion, just send it on over. Remember, everything good starts with podfeet.com. You can follow me on Mastodon at podfeet.com/Mastodon. If you want to listen to the podcast on YouTube, you can go to podfeet.com/YouTube. If you want to join the conversation, you can join our Slack community at podfeet.com/Slack, where you can talk to me and all the other lovely Nosilla castaways like Alistair Jenks, like Bart was talking about. You can support the show at podfeet.com/Patreon or with a one-time donation at podfeet.com/donate. You can use Apple Pay or any credit card. Or if you're a PayPal person, podfeet.com/PayPal. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, where you can call out typos, like, let's see, PDX Kurt found a problem, and let's see, Zoe found one, somebody else found one. Anyway, if you want to do that, if you want to join in the fun of the live show, head on over to podfeet.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time and join the friendly and enthusiastic Nosilla castaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed.